joining us now on the Oakland County MegaCast. He is the mayor of the city of Troy, Ethan Baker, with us on the show. Mayor Baker, thank you for being with us.
Oh, Tyler, Erica, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. How are you? How's the city staff been doing during all of this?
We're doing pretty well. I guess same complaints as everybody that we've gone through over the past several months at this point, and the same issues that have cropped up. And we spent a lot of time taking, one day at a time as everything changed. But we're in a good rhythm right now, and now we're trying to adjust going back to getting things back a little more to normal. So now we're transitioning back.
Well, that's good to hear. How have your city's operations been altered during this pandemic? And is there any plan now in place or already in motion to return to some semblance of normalcy?
Yeah, well, our city hall's been shut down pretty much since March, the end of March, and we've transitioned to most of our employees working from home. There's been some more back and forth into the office here and there, and we're seeing residents on an appointment-only basis right now at a city hall. But our community center, our library have been closed. But the essential work of a city still had to go on, and so we still were. Our Department of Public Works was still, handling all of our streets and water and sewer issues and the trash, and that all happened consistently throughout the pandemic time. And our city employees have really transitioned to working from home primarily, and have done a really good job at it. Now we face how do we get back into normal business? We've done a lot of renovations at City Hall with plexiglass and decals marking space for social distancing purposes. And we don't have a firm date yet when we're opening back up at City Hall or the community center, but we're figuring that out now.
That's good to hear. We have some other municipalities in the local area who have made those plans and or are in the process as well. So it seems like a lot of Oakland County is either already reopened partially or in full with social distancing and other safety measures in place, or are planning to do so very soon. Mayor Baker from the city of Troy with us on the MegaCast. Businesses also reopening. We saw restaurants, bars, and some retail reopen this week and late last week. Personal services, particularly those hair salons and barbershops that everyone's been clamoring to get to for a haircut for a while, are going to be reopening. Are there any new challenges that these reopenings, with COVID still very much in mind, have presented to the city?
Sure. Troy has kind of become known for its restaurants that we've had. We've added a lot of new restaurants on the Big Beaver corridor and throughout the city over the past few years, and trying to figure out now, they've been shut down, reopened last week or this week at 50% capacity. That's a challenge for a lot of these restaurants who can't necessarily operate and be profitable at that level. But I've visited several of them this week, kind of in an official capacity and also with my wife to eat, and they're doing a good job. Definitely keeping the disinfecting aspect going, the masks, the social distancing in the restaurants. That's been it seems to me the restaurants I've seen, they're doing a really a phenomenal job of making that work. The question will be, of course, how long do they have to do those techniques before they can open up more? We've got not a lot of outdoor dining in Troy, which is tough because if you can have outdoor dining, it seems people are more willing to go there. But we do have some restaurants that have expanded their patio areas, and that seems to make a difference. I went to Yard House, for example, the other day, and no one was sitting inside. Everybody was sitting outside. So it seems to me people are more willing to eat outdoors than go sit in a restaurant right now.
So, Mayor Ethan Baker, City of Troy, I know we've talked about restaurants now. How's the mall doing? What's more important?
Right?
Yeah, I actually got to go the other day, and I noticed a lot of stores are still closed. But have you been able to make your way out to Somerset yet? And what are your thoughts on what's going on there?
Listen, Somerset's a big part of our city. Some people call it the downtown of Troy because it draws people in from all over the state. I have been. They did a soft opening back on when the governor's order initially changed to only allow 10 customers per store, and they did it for a few days, then they closed down again because there were some protests in Troy that they were concerned about. And then they reopened back up with a new governor's order, and I went again. And yeah, a lot of stores are definitely not open yet. They're still trying to figure out the best way to do their job to keep everybody safe, both their employees and also the customers. But I think every day more stores are opening and more people are going. And Somerset's done an excellent job of, they provide masks for guests if they don't have them. They're keeping things very clean. They're moving through, and I know the people they've got employed there are really on top of it. So Somerset's a big part of our community and our city, and it's definitely slowly ramping back up. And last I heard from them is they expect 10 stores every day or two to reopen, and we're getting there.
Mayor Ethan Baker of the City of Troy with us on the Oakland County MegaCast on our family of stations. We'll take a quick pause to identify our radio stations to keep it all legal. You're listening to 89.3 WBLD, Orchard Lake, West Bloomfield, Keego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, 88.1 WBFH, Bloomfield Hills, and WAHS 89 and WAHS Auburn Hills. That's WAHS 89.5 Avondale Community Radio. You're also watching us on Civic Center TV and on Birmingham Area Municipal Access and on Facebook Live from the West Bloomfield Fire Department's Facebook page. Mayor Ethan Baker, a lot of other cities and municipalities in the Oakland County area, particularly I know this past week, last week, the Keego Harbor Planning Commission had discussions about this. This Monday, West Bloomfield's Township Board had discussions about this, and Birmingham's already put measures in place to help local businesses like shops, retail, and even some restaurants to help expand their space, maybe a little bit outdoors on the sidewalks or in the parking areas, to give them that extra space so that they can limit the 50% capacity indoors, but bring in as much business as possible and have a strong restart as they come out of this COVID-19 crisis slowly but surely. Any plans on the like in the city of Troy?
Well, we're taking each request on a case-by-case basis at this point. Sedona Tap House, for example, on Big Beaver, they've requested to go into our city sidewalk, which we're allowed to do with the city's permission. So they've expanded their patio service, and I talked to the owner, Marty Nolenberg, just yesterday, and he said that their patio's been full. So it's been a good thing for them. A lot of our restaurants are not on streets like Birmingham is, or some of the more traditional Main Street downtown type atmosphere. So it's a little bit of a different equation for us. We do have a ton of parking lots in Troy, plenty of parking. It's always free in Troy. But our restaurants haven't really been requesting that usage. We're more than willing to consider each request and to come up with something that works, because we want our restaurants to thrive and we want our residents to have a place to go eat and enjoy life a little bit like normal. But we're not really in the position where we need to do anything formal at the city council level to pass an ordinance. We can handle everything administratively at this point.
Mayor Ethan Baker from the city of Troy. We recently, and you mentioned this earlier on in our interview, saw the Black Lives Matter movement make its way to the city of Troy. It was one of the first suburban municipalities in the Metro Detroit area that partook in these protests. They were very peaceful. They were handled exceptionally well by the police department, by the protest organizers, and the Troy PD showed great care and solidarity and communication with the folks in that local protest in the wake of the death of George Floyd, and talked on issues of racial disparity towards black people and people of color. Your thoughts on the protest leadership, and the response from the community?
Sure. Well, we had two peaceful protests in Troy last week on a Monday and a Friday. It was quite a week for the city of Troy, a community that's not used to really that kind of civic engagement on that level. But we're very blessed to have a police department that cares greatly about our community and fighting racial injustice, and they're against police brutality themselves. When we worked together with the organizers of these protests so that it could be a peaceful partnership, and that really made the difference and allowed it to be that. You saw the police officers and the Troy Police Department shutting down Big Beaver and escorting these protesters down so they could walk and not disrupt things in an inappropriate way. And it was really meaningful and impactful, I think, for our community. The two protests we had were a little bit different. Mondays wasn't quite such a homegrown protest, whereas Fridays was organized by a former Troy Athens High graduate who's a freshman in college now, and she came back to her hometown to do this, and there was a ton of local Troy residents that were out participating. I was there with my wife, actually. It was important for me to see what was happening on the streets of our city and to show our solidarity with the police department, with the protesters, with the movement in general. Troy's a diverse city, and I have no shame in saying that the Black and brown lives of our city absolutely do matter. So it was important for me to be there and see it, and I think it made Troy shine to see our great community support and taking a stand of solidarity.
There's been a lot of talk also recently about quote unquote defund the police and other translations that goes to reforming the role of the police or increasing the role of other community initiatives and community policing situations in order to help reduce the police brutality, but also to help encourage some reforms that help people in need that the police maybe are not ready to to work with or not best equipped to work with in the sense of social work and mental health professionals and so on. Has there been any discussions at the city council level in Troy or between yourself and the leadership in the police department about changes that may be made in Troy or additions or modifications that may be made to the systems that be in Troy to address these issues?
Well, let me say, the city of Troy is not going to defund their police department. I'll tell you that right out. Our police department, our emphasis on public safety is a huge part of our city's success. I mean, we've been the safest city in Michigan several times, and we really pride ourselves on our strong public safety ability in the city of Troy. Obviously, you look at throughout the country, and there's different urban areas and different police departments that have issues, and a lot of them what they need are the reforms that the Troy Police Department already has. We are extremely forward thinking when it comes to training, background checks for our hiring, how we use of force procedures. And right away when the George Floyd protest started and the issue became it became in the national interest, we requested information from our police department on their use of force procedures, their community policing procedures, their hiring and training of the police officers, because we wanted to see and know, what we had here in Troy. And we've been provided a preliminary report, which is public information. We're reviewing that as we go through. There's 6 council members and myself as the mayor. We're looking at those things and seeing what needs to be done. But it turns out that a lot of what other communities the reforms they're looking for are things that the city of Troy already does. You hear a lot about Camden, New Jersey, and how they disbanded their police department and rebuilt it. Well, what they rebuilt it to is what Troy is already doing. So we're fortunate to be ahead of the curve in a lot of that. Doesn't mean there's always not time to look over things and look for reform where necessary, but we're working really hard to go through that information now and see what tweaks we can make if we need to. And I'm very confident in our Troy Police Department, and we are a model, I think, in the community or in the region, if not in the state. So I'm feeling good about where we are with our police department, but we'll always look and see where we can make adjustments if necessary.
Joined by the mayor of the city of Troy, Ethan Baker, on the Oakland County MegaCast on our family of stations. Just another couple minutes with you, Mayor. Anything else that we haven't touched on that you'd like to speak about, or any other things you'd like to bring up about the city of Troy?
Oh, I think, listen, we've got, like I said, we've got a lot of restaurants here. We've got a lot of small businesses that are back open for business and can use your patronage. Obviously, it's no surprise that there are, the population's a little bit split on how they feel about COVID-19 at this point and getting back into the economy and getting back out into their normal lives. And, if you're too afraid to go out and use a restaurant and dining, I respect that completely, but it doesn't mean you can't get carry out from them. On the flip side, if you're ready to get out and dine, please come to Troy. We'd love to have you. We are same with our retail, our shopping. We're prepared to handle what needs to happen. I'm extremely proud. We've got Troy Beaumont here and a lot of healthcare workers in our city, in our community. And I've been really, really, amazed by the outpouring of support in our community for those healthcare heroes and for our frontline responders. And so I try every chance I can to talk about how wonderful they are here in the city of Troy, our volunteers, our healthcare heroes themselves. And we're a great community. And I think it shows in these times of crisis when you see people band together like they have.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for being with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, and I appreciate it very much.